Hello and welcome everybody. Janet Beckers here, and I'm very excited to introduce you to my beautiful friend, the best LinkedIn tip for us to learn from, Julie Mason. G'day, Julie.
Hey, Janet, how are you? Nice to be here.
Yeah, you too. Now, Julie and I were just talking before we got on here, and you know what? Total transparency. We weren't just talking before we got on here. It was me stuffing up the intro over and over and over again.
Super real.
And but that's as part of that we worked out. You know, it's been 11 years.
Yeah, 11 years.
Know each other. Yeah, and that's like dog years in internet marketing. So that's like. Yeah, times that by 7. So it's been a long time that we've been part of each other's world. And the whole time that I've been doing, in this world is Julie's just always been this beautiful constant when it comes to really strategically using social media, and especially on using LinkedIn. Just always has a very beautiful, methodical, calm, this is what's important. None of this rah, let's be an influencer type thing. Just very, you're in it here for your business. Let's meet your objective. Here is the path. That's one thing I've always noticed about you, Julie. You're always very clear on what's the path to the outcome.
Thank you. I think I focus on strategy rather than tactics. And that's the difference. A lot of people will sell the tactics of using different social media platforms and what should be doing, and they go for the bright shiny object syndrome that you and I know so well.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm always looking beyond that at the higher level. What's your strategy? What do you want to achieve first of all? And let's see if LinkedIn's a good fit for that.
Yeah, and I think that's why we've always stayed connected, because it was 11 years ago we met, and we both already had been in business and been in online business for a few years before that as well. So over that time, you've got to see all the trends, all the tactics, and it's the people who focus on strategy and helping people with strategy that are the ones that last.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, why we're still here.
That's right. No fly-by notice here.
Yeah. So what we're going to focus on today is, Julie's got such an amazing wealth of knowledge on LinkedIn that we thought what we would focus on is really who needs to be using it. And then we're really going to look in, once we've worked out who needs to be using it, we're going to start with the objectives, and then we're going to look at what can you do if you've only got, a few minutes a day or just a couple of hours per week. Like, where do you get the best bang for your buck? So that's our focus for the day. So get ready to take notes, because this is all going to be, where do you get the best results for the least amount of time that's being put in?
Love it.
Yeah.
Let's rock.
Let's do it. So Julie, when it comes to being out there, like I always recommend to everybody, you've got to claim your space. So you've got to make sure that on all of the social media platforms, you've got your profile set up. So you've got to be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of those different places. Like, claim your space so nobody else can move in on your territory. But then, it's really difficult if you try to spread yourself too thin and try to be like really mastering every single one of those platforms on a regular basis for part of your business. It's just too thin.
It's exhausting too, Janet. It's exhausting, to try and do that. And I can say this hand on heart because, my business, as you know, before was the Social Media Princess. I used to teach all of these social media platforms. And just trying to keep up with them was exhausting. I'd be up at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out what the latest Pinterest strategy was, and changed on Facebook algorithms, and it was just exhausting. So I do agree with you. Find the platforms where your tribe are hanging out.
Yeah.
Your ideal target market are there in, abundance, and focus on that. Yeah. Much better.
Yeah. So
when you master that one, then maybe add a different one on that they're hanging out as a secondary. But really look at your prioritization.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not gonna be for
Absolutely.
everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if we take that into consideration, like who really should be making LinkedIn their number one? Like who's going to get the best results on LinkedIn much more than they are on other social media platforms?
Well, I think, first of all, let's just look at the psychology of the users on LinkedIn to start with. So, okay, because that really speaks to who goes on there first and foremost. So when we look at people who are on Facebook, for example, and you know, there's like 2 point something billion people in the world on Facebook. They predominantly, the psychology of the users on Facebook is to be social first and foremost. They're there to find out what their friends and their connections are doing, their family, to stay in touch with their social circle essentially. And business is secondary on there. They follow pages, yes, but they don't want that to overwhelm their newsfeed, which is why Mark Zuckerberg came out in January last year and said if Facebook Zero was being announced with company pages, you get less traction. If you want to get traction, you've got to pay to play, right?
Yeah.
So Mark himself has said that people are there to be social. They don't want that social feed to be interrupted too much by business. So you've got to be really mindful of the psychology when you use Facebook. When we look at LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the business social platform. I really call it more a business tool than a social platform per se.
Right.
But it's your business network. It's like it's like where you go to a business meeting every week, you know, and you're meeting people and you're getting to know them and you're exchanging connection details, etc. You're there with a business mindset. You're looking for industry insights. You're looking for people who could help you solve a problem in business. You're looking for content that might be able to, you know, give you some ideas of what to do next. All of that, it's very much in the business mindset. And social is nearly non-existent in the terms of I'm going to share what I have for lunch, or I'm going to share my holiday pictures or anything like that. That's nearly non-existent on LinkedIn.
Right.
That's really Facebook, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great distinction.
Understanding the psychology of it, really important, you know. And so the people who should be on LinkedIn, I mean, viably using LinkedIn as a strategy, the ones, if your target audience, if your ideal target market is a business owner or in business, or even in the corporate market, they might be executives, or let's say, for example, I was talking to a limo driver yesterday and he said, can you help me with a strategy on LinkedIn? I said, absolutely. And we worked out, you know, he wants to really target executives that do a lot of travel. And so, okay, so do you really want the executives, are the CEOs booking this, or are there EAs, their executive assistants, booking it? Because that determines who we connect with, who we target, what content we're going to send out to them. You know, so we need to be mindful of that strategy that starts with who is your ideal target market. So if it's in that business arena, then LinkedIn is something you really want to consider.
That is good advice. And my mind is sort of thinking here as well, because I find, well, for my target market, a lot of them are not necessarily going on LinkedIn. They may be solopreneurs and they work with individuals. So they're not necessarily, they're using LinkedIn, but not as much. But the podcast that just went out, a few weeks ago from the time that we're publishing this one, was an interview with Randall Dobbins around how do you get corporate contracts? How do you be prepared? How does your business prepared to get those big contracts?
Yeah.
Of course, my mind has been buzzing since then around not just corporate contracts that I serve, but for my clients. I've got certain clients that I know have perfectly suited to be able to get those contracts. They may not have even thought about that. So that's one thing that we might discuss when it comes to, you may not have originally seen that as your target market, but if you can have the possibility of corporate contracts, we might have a look at some of those as an example.
I was talking with a guy in Victoria yesterday who does, I have to say, he has the coolest business, really cool. he does land clearing, but environmentally friendly land clearing. So instead
Right.
of bulldozing off the top layer of the topsoil and taking everything and it's like slash and burn, his comes in and just kind of clears it without disturbing the topsoil level, which is amazing stuff, right?
Right.
And so you wouldn't think that a land cleaner, like a guy who's in a machine all day, is going to use LinkedIn, would you? But he's
No.
got government contracts and fire contracts for doing fire breaks along the highway and things like that that are really important, but they generally get tendered out. And so he needs to start building up connections with council, employees that work in those different departments. He needs to build, relationships with the CFA, the County Fire Country Fire Association, I think is what it's called. He needs to build all of those connections, and they're all on LinkedIn. And here's the interesting, particularly with the councils and the government, they might be on LinkedIn not necessarily to find people like him. They're on LinkedIn to have their profile there so they can get headhunted for another job or for career advancement. But for you, as a business owner in his position, for example, he can track them down because they're on LinkedIn trying to get a job, improvement.
Yes.
So you can find them and connect with them because they're putting their whole resume on there.
Oh, that is interesting. So what we might do is let's have a look at a few of the outcomes. We'll look at, who are they trying to connect with? And then we might, once we've got a few ideas on those, then let's sort of dig down a little bit deeper on, okay, how do you connect in a way that's going to be time efficient for you? Yeah. But let's do that so that we stay sort of focused on what we're going to do. So if we've got that number one of, okay, you're in a business that may not necessarily have always had corporate contracts, but you're thinking, you know what, I can put this together and actually create something that will be really valuable for corporate. So I guess the one thing that you said there, which was really, really clear, and because I talked about Randall's podcast that was to do with corporate contracts, one of the big things was most people, when they're a business that's trying to go into corporate, they don't understand how the buying decisions are made. So you gave a great example there, Julie, that, yeah, it might be the CEO, he's in the back of that limo, but that is not the person.
That's right.
That is ordering it. So you need to know who is the person and what is the position of who's actually going to make the decision, or at least take the decision to the person who'll tick it off. So is there a way that you can sort of discover that through LinkedIn, or would that be a matter of you starting to have those conversations to work out?
Yeah, you really need to know who your ideal target market is, and I actually am so passionate about this. I wrote a 10-page PDF that has a full template of how to create your ideal client avatar that is specifically for B2B clients, because most client avatars are really just more B2C. They're a bit wishy-washy, whereas this one's very detailed and focuses on doing LinkedIn research. So if people would like that, it's free to download. They can go to my website and grab it. You could notes or something, Janet, that would be fine.
Yeah, let's do that.
But essentially, it's really knowing who you are targeting and what you and I have known for years. What are their fears, wants, needs, and frustrations? But I show you how to research that using LinkedIn as well.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That document. So there's quite a few tips there on how to find out this stuff on LinkedIn and elsewhere for that matter, but predominantly on LinkedIn, because if you don't know who it is that you're targeting, so for example, and I want to make this really clear to everyone listening, because there might be a lot of people who are on here that their target market are actually on LinkedIn, but they've got the word corporate now stuck in their mind because we've used it a few times, and they kind of think that LinkedIn is just corporate. I'm here to tell you it's so much more than that, everybody. There is a vibrant health and wellness industry on LinkedIn. There's a vibrant construction industry on LinkedIn. There's a vibrant, a whole range. There's so much availability on LinkedIn. It's not funny. And if you haven't, found it, you're not looking hard enough, essentially, is what I'm saying. So I'd like to just kind of clarify, you don't just have to go for corporate. there is a huge number of Australian small businesses, actually small businesses around the world on LinkedIn as well. That could be your target market. So let's say, for example, I want to give another example.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that we can help people who are listening here understand that this may be for them, even though they're not looking for corporate contracts.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
So, for example, I'll give you a really out of the box example, right? And I'll give you a couple of others that are a bit more in the box. So we'll use some case studies. You and I have a dear friend, Julie Lewin, who we mentioned when we were chatting earlier. And Julie Lewin is so far outside of the box of, I call it, we have a joke about this between us, so I'm allowed to say this to Julie. She gives me permission. She's so far on the fringes of alternate medicine, the oxygen's thin out there, right? She's a person being a medical intuitive. And she said to me years ago, she said, Julie, I'm a medical intuitive. How on earth would LinkedIn help me? And I said, well, let's give it a shot, shall we? And so we zhushed up her profile. We got her value propositioning statement on her profile, really shining beautifully. And literally within 24 hours, she got approached by 2 radio stations to do a radio show with them through LinkedIn.
Right.
Right.
So then
it can also be coming towards you as well as you searching for things on LinkedIn as well.
Right.
That's one example that you don't necessarily have to be in corporate or searching for corporate to get results coming through. Does it make sense?
So in that case, the outcome that you would have been really, making everything focused around when you, what was it?
Zhushed her profile.
Zhushed her profile. Would you be thinking, okay, the outcome we're looking for here is we want PR, we want media.
Yeah, we wanted to increase her branding, her ability to, be seen by her target market. I mean, it was just fortuitous that, we made those changes on her profile, and literally the people who were looking for her qualities in radio were out there searching for that. And your profile is incredibly searchable on LinkedIn. But not only that, just keep in mind as a side note, Google and LinkedIn have a big love fest going on. Google sees LinkedIn as a very trusted website. So your personal LinkedIn profile actually ranks very high when people search Google for your name or for your business.
Right, yeah.
And it can sometimes even rank higher than your website. So making sure your profile is really singing the right tune is so important in first impressions, right? So for Julie, she not only was able to, I think she ended up signing up with CBS Radio with a listening audience of 1.8 million and did that radio show from her home in Warwick for about 9 months, which was great, right? Great exposure for her.
Yeah.
But not only that, let's come back to a person who was a coach here in Brisbane. So a lovely gentleman by the name of John came to me about 2 years ago, and he was really feeling this pinch because the coaching industry has boomed, as you and I both know, right? It's just booming, and it's like every time you go to a street corner, you can't swing a cat without hitting 3 or 4 coaches, right?
Yes. All with identical branding. And
I know.
Yeah.
So John came to me and he said, look, my referrals that I used to get a lot of that you really fueled my business has sort of started to become a dribble. He said, and somebody pointed me to you for LinkedIn. He said, can you help me? And I said, sure, no problems at all. And so we started him on a specific strategy, which I call the influencer strategy, and not because of to be an influencer, but to influence through your content to create brand recognition. So I'll just define what I mean by influencer strategy in that word.
Yeah.
So we created a content strategy for him to really show his thought leadership, to become top of mind presence for everybody. And literally in 45 days, he got a $24,000 client comes through LinkedIn.
Brilliant.
So it's not necessarily instantaneous. And I encourage people to go, don't think of this as a get rich or a magic pill or a fast acting solution, because everything that we do here is about building trust And generally speaking, building relationships, right? And that takes time. You can't expect to walk down the street and ask somebody to marry you and get a yes. You'll probably get laughed at or slapped, or whatever the case may be. And so you shouldn't expect to connect with people on LinkedIn and immediately hit them up and ask them to, you know, sign up to your services. You have to build trust. You have to build that relationship and get to know them, for goodness sake. And it's not hard to do. I teach you how to do that really elegantly and easily so that it's not slimy or salesy or pitchy or anything like that, that it's elegant and easy for both parties to do.
Excellent. Right? So I wonder if now, are there any other outcomes that people should be aware of before we start talking about, well, how do you build those relationships and find those people in the most efficient way?
Well, LinkedIn can give you some great outcomes, from positioning you as a thought leader through your content, to driving traffic through to your website, to filling your diary with strategy calls or sales leads, through to getting, you know, radio stations contacting you, to actually becoming a guest on podcasts if that's what you want to do. There's so, or even if you run a podcast like you do, Janet, finding great speakers to invite onto your podcast. Right? So there is just such a wealth of opportunity on there. It's unbelievable, and we're just not tapping into anywhere near as much of it as we could.
Oh, you've really got me thinking about getting back over there, because I know mine's incredibly out of date, because it's just hasn't been the top of my priority, even though we do post content over there as part of our regular scheme, and it gets interaction. So I love that sort of, and it's interesting you were talking about getting invitations to be a guest on other people's podcasts, because that's one of the strategies that I work with my VIP clients is, okay, for you in particular, we need to get you so that you're in front of as many audiences, because you are great when you start communicating and you can teach. So let's get you in front of other people's audiences. But, you know, there is that whole process of how do you get on the process you work through with people. But that LinkedIn of actually, that's where you're probably going to find some of those people who've got podcasts will be looking. So
well, just to give people here an example, because I am active on LinkedIn and not necessarily always content, I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff on LinkedIn, like private messaging with people, where a lot of my business is actually generated. The content helps, but it's the behind the scenes stuff that really is where the leads turn into sales, if that makes sense.
Right.
But just for being active on LinkedIn, I've had the opportunity of speaking on radio in New Zealand, all across Australia. I've been on podcasts all over the world. I've been live streamed into a school stadium in Jamaica, of all places, and spoken virtually alongside the Minister of Tourism for Jamaica.
Oh, how cool.
And all of this just gives you the opportunity to get your brand out there, to make an impact, which I think is what your tribe are looking to do, right?
Yeah. People who are listening here, I mean, like, of course, you know, they want to make an impact, they want to make a difference, but they also want to make some money. So, so I love it. So, okay, so now let's look then at, if you've only got a limited amount of time, but if you want to, you've talked a few times around make connections, make relationships, and that's where the money was coming from, or the contacts were coming from, the opportunities were coming from, as much as the content. So if somebody came to you and said, look, I reckon I may be able to spend a few hours just to set things up properly, but then really realistically, I only have a short amount of time per week. What would be your recommendations?
Okay, well, first of all, get your foundations of your profile really working well. And Janet, can we give them some really good tips just to write their about section on LinkedIn?
That'd be great.
Learn how to write it, so that because what happens is when they reach out to connect to somebody, that person that they've reached out to connect to is going to come back to their profile and go, who is this person? What are they all about? And if your profile's not written well, you're missing the opportunity is going to slide by. Does it make sense? So you want to make that great first impression. So a great photo on your profile, guys, head and shoulders, really good quality photo is ideal. That actually increases your profile views and connection requests, believe it or not.
Right.
Because it builds trust. People want to know who they're connecting to. They want a face to put a name to, right?
Yeah.
A good headline is not your title. By the way, a good headline that sits under your name on LinkedIn is what you do to help people. So what's the outcome they can expect if they work with you, for example. And the about section, which is previously known as the summary. LinkedIn have recently changed the terminology and it's now called the about section. I want to give you guys quickly the formula of how to write that.
Great.
It's 2,000 characters that you've got to do that summary, and most people screw it up. I'm sorry, but they just do. They just screw it up. So let's get you guys on Romance Your Tribe Radio doing it right. Yeah,
perfect. And we want to see your profiles too, everybody.
Absolutely. Connect with us, okay? Connect with Janet and I on LinkedIn. We'd love that. But the summary needs to be broken down into about 5 or 6 paragraphs. And I'm going to go exactly what those paragraphs are so you can write this really easily. So the first paragraph is the identify paragraph. Identify the biggest problem that you solve for your ideal client, okay? So what's the problem that they are presenting with, okay?
Yep.
Second paragraph is what's it costing them to have that problem? So not only what's it costing them to have it financially, but what is it costing them to have it emotionally, physically, even spiritually, like their peace of mind, their sense of calm, for example.
Mm-hmm.
What's it costing them to have that problem? Because most of us are quite apathetic and we might go, yeah, that's the problem I have. But unless we hold the mirror up to them and say, this is what that problem's costing you, honey, do you want to take some action on it or not, right?
Yeah.
You need to kind of light a fire underneath them and go, hey, this is it. Is this resonating with you? And you'll go, because I mean, we do this when we Google search our medical conditions. Oh yeah, I've got that symptom. Oh yeah, I've got that symptom, right?
Yeah.
What are the symptoms they're presenting with? What is it costing them essentially? Third paragraph is we can't leave them in hell, so we need to move them out of there. What's the solution to the problem? And you can put some industry statistics in that, for example, to verify that that's the result or that's the solution. And that could segue nicely into what's the proof that that solution actually works, right? The fifth paragraph should be your credibility paragraph. It's the only paragraph where you should really be talking about you. I know this is your profile, guys, but you need to write it as if your ideal client is going to read this. So write it about them and they'll resonate with you. Because I don't care about you.
Love it.
They care about how do you help them, right?
Yeah.
So credibility, why should they trust you to deliver this solution over anybody else? What's your experience or what's your passion or, what results do you get for your clients? Anything along those lines in your credibility paragraph. And then finally, and the most important part, your call to action paragraph. Be very specific. What is the next step to do business with you, right? And here's a tip, guys. I really want to make this clear. Do not ask them to email you or message you. It is the lowest form of converting call to action known to man. And here's why. People don't know what to say, so they don't.
Right.
So if you want them to, have a 30-minute free consultation with you, tell them to pick up the phone and you'll be happy to have a 30-minute free chat to answer all their questions and give them clarity and let them leave the call feeling energized and reinvigorated and back on track with what they're doing, right? Or you could do send them to a website where they can opt in for a free download or a free video or whatever it might be, but be very specific and tell them quite step by step exactly what they can expect, okay? So something like to simply book in a 30-minute free consultation with Janet, go to romanceyourtribe.com, whatever. You get where I'm going?
Yeah, I love it.
With you very shortly, right? So let them know that you're going to be speaking to them very shortly. Yeah. So
I love it. That is so beautifully clear, Julie. And really, what you've done there is like a mini sales letter.
Yeah, it is.
It's walking them through that sort of mindset that people need to be able to go through. So I love it.
But you're doing it in 2,000 characters, guys, not 2,000 words, 2,000 characters. So be short with your paragraphs and sentences, and make sure that you're really getting to that point that's going to resonate with your ideal target. Think about putting yourself in their shoes and walking in their shoes for a minute. And what are they feeling? Where are they going? What's really struggling with? What's keeping them up at night? All of that. That goes into, the emotional drivers in that summary, in the about section that's now called. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Profile sorted, then start connecting with people, because when they come back, they're going to go, oh, that's exactly what I need, right?
Yeah.
So you now resonate with them far better than you would if you just kind of started connecting without really thinking about your strategy first, right?
Yeah.
Now that makes it's all in, logical steps of what we're doing here. So my advice is to, when you're connecting, LinkedIn has this phenomenal search box that will, with just a few keyword strokes, will open up a treasure trove of opportunity for you simply by having a look, right? So let's say your ideal target market was accountants, that you have a software that will save them 20% of their time on data entry or whatever it might be, right? Or it might be a way for them to generate more leads in their business, whatever it is that you're doing. Let's just say accountants are our target market. So you'd search for accountants, select the location of the accountants that you want to work with. So if you're located in Melbourne, search Melbourne. If you're in Brisbane, search Brisbane. If you're in New York, search New York, for goodness sake. I know a colleague in the States, all he does is write LinkedIn profiles for accountants, nothing else. That's it. LinkedIn profiles for accountants. He is booked solid for days on it, right? It would be boring as anything for me. I'm pretty sure it would be cookie cutter by the end of it.
I'm sure it would be, yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's all he does. He's run a business very successfully on that for many years, right? And still can, because there's how many thousands and thousands and thousands of accountants are out there? Yeah. So if that's all you do, there's a good niche for it, right? So essentially, really know who your target market is, search for them on LinkedIn, and then narrow down your search parameters to your location or industry or whatever it is. And you've got all those search parameters on LinkedIn to do that. Once you find them, the secret here is to connect with a personal note. Always use a personal note on connection, because the thing that's going through the person who's receiving that invite is, who is this random person and why are they reaching out to connect with me? People are still quite nervous about connecting with strangers on the internet. We still have that stranger danger in our head. And so even online, they're like, oh, I'm not really sure, delete. So if you had a personal message, and all you guys need to do on the personal message front when you're sending a connection is not to sell them at that point, because that's just too early in that conversation and way too early in the relationship. All you need to do is simply say, hey, I saw your profile on LinkedIn. I love what you do. It looks like there could be some great synergy between us, and I'd look forward to getting to know you further through LinkedIn. Cheers, Julie. That's it. That's it.
I'll tell you what, that is such a relief to hear that. I mean, I really want people to just really take that one on, because when I use LinkedIn, I'll go in there maybe once a week, and it's when we've posted our videos, and I'll go in and just, keep an eye on things. And, there's always these requests, and I'm just one of these people of, yeah, whatever. You can all be my friend. It's kind of that's been Janet's.
I'll open the doors.
Life, all her life. Yep, you can all be my friend. And then, most people don't leave a message, but the people who do leave a message, it would be 95% is, well, how interesting. Would you like to know how I can help you to make, or would you like to come to my workshop? Would you like to hop on the phone? Would you like me to try to sell you the service that you actually provide to other people?
I had this exact conversation yesterday, Janet, with one of my members in my program, and she said, Julie, I've been following your strategy, and every time I reach out to connect, they sell me straight back. How do I deal with that? So can I share with you my answer to her and how to deal with that?
Yeah.
Because I've been in sales, as you know, for 25 years, 15 years in door-to-door cold calling. I can pivot things really well, right? So here was my answer to her. I simply said, thank you so much for that kind offer. I'm not interested just at the moment, but please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you could do it, you could even take it to another level. So I get hit up a lot by people who are in multi-level marketing. Now,
Yeah.
I started my sales career in multi-level marketing. It was foundational for me. And I love seeing people get into that industry, right? But I'm not wanting to do it anymore myself. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Here's what I say to people who are trying to sign me up for, you know, whatever multi-level marketing program they're in at the moment. And
Yeah.
I simply say, thank you so much for that kind offer. I can see you're really passionate about your new business and I wish you the greatest of success. It's just not for me at the moment, but keep me informed for the products that you've got because I'll probably be a customer, but not a recruit.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. You're so kind to everybody, Julie. You're so kind.
Well, it's karma, Janet. It's what goes around comes back to you. Really,
Yeah.
I've learned that.
Yeah.
They
are really great strategies. So if you've got, okay, so if you've done your research and you identify, so for example, if we go back to the limo driver, because that's such a nice, simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is okay. Here he is. He's got somebody who is an executive assistant that's connected. So he's gone, awesome. So this is the person that I want to make sure that I connect with. What's going to be the best way? Is it going to be through messaging? Is it going to be through groups, through going on their profile? Just what's the best?
That's a great question. So essentially, if he's identified the executive assistant, for example, of that CEO or the CEO as well, because it was quite interesting. He said to me, more CEOs are taking that on because they want to build a relationship with the drivers, which is quite interesting. And I said, well, that's great. That's fine. You can do that too, but don't be afraid to connect with both. In this case, it's what I call circle the wagons, right?
Yeah.
Gives you 2 bites of the cherry.
Yeah.
So once he reaches out to connect and say, hey, I noticed your profile and there could be some good synergy, thought I'd reach out and let's just see how it goes, you know, for example, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
But keep it really light. You're not there to sell on that connection invitation, right? You're there just simply to get them to accept your invitation to connect, because once they accept, then you can start to really build that relationship with the messaging and the top of mind presence with content being streamed out, etc.
Right.
And here's the thing. I don't want that limo driver to immediately go out and then once that CEO has accepted him or the executive assistant in this case, let's use the executive assistant, to immediately, hey, listen, if you need a limo driver, I can help you. You don't want to do that because it's still too early, right?
Yeah.
So what you might want to do is instead you would, once she's accepted or he's accepted, you private message them. And I always use a LinkedIn article. This is where LinkedIn articles, which are the blog posts on your profile of LinkedIn, not the news feed posts. There's something different. But a LinkedIn article is kind of your thought leadership area, right?
Yeah, brilliant.
LinkedIn articles then to add value, because here's the other thing to note. When people connect with you on LinkedIn, they don't want to leave that platform to go to your website for a blog post. They're not ready to click on a unknown URL at this point, and you're still, let's face it, unknown.
Yeah.
The platform to keep them on LinkedIn by using a LinkedIn article that might be 5 things you should think of before booking a limo driver, right? And do an article on here's 5 things to consider before you book your next limo.
Excellent.
Right? And then at the bottom of the article, you could have a gentle call to action to say, if you'd like to, you know, talk to me about having a regular booking service and some offers that we've got available at the moment for ongoing customers, please hit me up with my phone number or whatever the you know, point of direction is, the call to action. And then what you would do is you would say to that EA or the CEO, once they've connected, simply say, thanks so much for connecting. I can see that you're in an executive position or an executive role, and you may potentially from time to time need a limo. I wrote this article recently on 5 tips to save on, you know, booking your limo driver or things to consider when booking a limo driver. I hope you find it really useful. Look forward to your thoughts. Cheers. And send them the article.
Excellent.
Right? Now the article will have a small call to action in it. some will read it, some won't. That's okay. But you're adding value, right? It's about adding value into there, and it's what I call the emotional bank balance. When we connect with somebody, it's like opening a bank balance. At that point of connection, you have a zero deposit. If I ask something of you at that point, I'm going to go into overdraw.
Yeah.
But if I give something of value, I'm going to put a deposit into that emotional bank balance. And then I might be able to ask for a withdrawal or a call to action. Does it make sense?
Oh, look, this is making me smile. If I'm getting a funny smile on my face, it's because this is exactly the same language I used with my children as teenagers, except it was called the trust bank account.
Right.
And it was okay, you didn't come home until 3 hours past the time you said you were going to.
Yeah.
And
I love the trust bank account analogy, right?
Yeah, you're in negative. Okay, you gotta build up that trust before you can ask for that big, can I stay overnight somewhere? As an example.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking.
We haven't left teenagers.
Motherhood is perfect preparation.
We still need to do the trust.
Absolutely. I love it. That works really, really well. And, it also fits in very well with the analogy I often use of, which is why, I call romance your tribe, is, just because you flirted and you might have invited them back to your place, which might be your profile, don't just assume that you're on a winner. Like, you're still going to have to do some, you're going to have to, do some courting. Yeah. And you're going to have some romance before you start discussing how many kids you're going to have.
Absolutely.
So,
and you don't just stop at one message. We teach my clients a whole message sequencing for this on LinkedIn.
That is brilliant.
And there's a formula for that, right?
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are so on the same page, girlfriend.
Yes. And you know what, this is why I really wanted to bring you along, Julie. One, because you're very strategic at doing this. You've been helping clients for years. But also, I really never want people to go, okay, I've got this guaranteed formula that, I too can buy it for $5,000 because it's going to be guaranteed that within 10 days I will have, made these many sales. Because it's very full on. It's really, really kind of and a very aggressive marketing, which can be okay for a short-term goal, but you can end up damaging the relationship.
It's a churn and burn version, isn't it? You and I both know that. You can definitely get some numbers through, but you'll churn and burn a lot of people in the process.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're all here for the long haul.
Yeah. And LinkedIn is a marathon, guys, not a sprint.
Yeah.
This is something that having said that, I've had clients that within 2 days have gotten a $75,000 contract through LinkedIn.
Right.
And I've had people who, like John, I mentioned earlier, who've taken 45 days. And it just depends on your strategy and what your outcomes are that you want to achieve. And it all comes back to strategy,
Yeah.
What is it that you want to achieve on LinkedIn? Tie the strategy to that, or create the strategy for that, then apply the tactics, but not the other way around.
Yeah. Right? I love it. That is a really nice note for us to end on, I think.
Sounds good.
So, Julie, for people who are listening, I always like to end with, like, what is one thing that people can do this week? That if they do that, it's going to start moving them forward to get some results with LinkedIn. So what would be the number one thing that people should focus on this week?
Review your profile. Make sure that you've zhushed that profile up. Follow that formula that I gave you, because everything swings off the profile. And if it's not, serving your clients or your prospects, it's not serving you.
Yeah, I love it. That is a great one. And what I recommend that everybody does here is go over to LinkedIn and connect with Julie. Because, hey, if you want to see a great example of a zhushed about me profile, you're going to see that there with Julie. So that will be a great example. So you can see best practice and you get to connect with somebody.
Love to connect with you.
That knows her stuff. And hey, come and connect with me too. And you can see that I have not updated mine for a long time. It may have changed by the time that this goes live. So that would be good.
It was a while ago. It's what, 7 years ago you came to my LinkedIn workshop?
It was a long time ago.
A long time ago.
I don't think I may have updated it slightly since then, but it's an area that I have really focused on. It hasn't been my number one. But interestingly, what I have found is when I have put my profile on there, I can remember getting a message where people I was invited to chair a conference on women in business, and I've gone, how did you find me?
Yeah.
And it was, we found you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's right.
Really?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So
go and have a look at some of my articles on my LinkedIn profile as well, guys, because there's some absolute gold in there. Some really good tips. One in particular, we've talked about how to send an invitation to connect, but there's another article on there that is pure lead generating gold on how to accept an invitation and convert that into a lead.
Excellent.
And it gives you the exact wording and the script to use.
Oh, I love it. And don't you love Julie? Like, have you just noticed, like, Julie has mentioned this awesome opt-in that we will get over on her website, which is really going to help you to get super clear on who you want to be targeting.
Yeah, that's on juliemason.com.au.
Yeah, so that, I'm going over there because I know it will be awesome. I know that she's got
a really
great article.
Some of my best work in like the last 10 years that I see.
Right.
Yeah, go check it out.
Oh, that's good to know. I just love I love watching somebody who is really good at what they're doing at being able to give like really strategic, good content that will let you know if this is the person that you want to go to get more help from. So thank you so much, Julie. I've really enjoyed today. And for everybody that's listening, the best thing that you can do for Julie and I is go out there and do it. Okay, go and take some action.
Love that.
Yeah, because for us, sure, the reason why I run podcasts is because I absolutely love talking to people like Julie. So for me, I get to hang out with my friends and learn and have great conversations. But the other thing is because I really want you to take action. So if you just commit every single podcast that you listen to, whether it's mine, whether it's somebody else, to take one action, if you just do that every time you listen to one, your business is just going to continue to grow. So that one action that we've got today, I would love it if you would come and let Julie and I know, what did you do? So that could be in the comments here, or if you're watching this on the blog, it could be by leaving a rating and a comment on iTunes. I would love if you did that so more people can find us. Say, what did you do? And come over, most importantly, come over to LinkedIn, tell Julie what action you took, and come and tell me what action you took, how much you love Julie. And that we'll be incredibly grateful if you do that. So thank you, everybody, and thank you so much for your time, Julie. You're a star.
My pleasure, Janet. Thanks so much for having me here. I can't wait to hear everybody's results and happy LinkedIn.
Yeah, happy LinkedIn. There you go. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.